As our story begins, a man stands over a boy telling him, "You must be an otherworlder," to which the boy looks back in confusion. The man tells the boy to calm down and listen to him, but the boy ignores him, and while still confused and bewildered, he checks himself to see if it is really real. The name of this world is Area. People wield swords and magic, and all kinds of demons and monsters exist in this world. Due to their existence, this world is a battleground where everything fights to survive. This greedy world summons various otherworlders from every dimension. The first place otherworlders are summoned to is this place they are in, the city of beginning, Xenavus. The man asks our main protagonist if he has learned martial arts or magic before, to which the boy responds, no. The man remarks that our protagonist has no class, causing the boy to be confused by what he means by no class. The man tells him that it is just a term, and that he will explain it to him slowly, so he instructs him to follow him. When the man asks the boy for his name, we now find that our main protagonist's name is Lee Sungmin. The man tells him that now that he has seen him summoned, he cannot just leave him be. He insists that they talk while they eat, assuming that Sungmin is probably hungry. As they walk through a dark alleyway, the man asks Sungmin if he is thirsty and hands him a bottle to drink. Sungmin thanks the man for his generosity, to which the man responds there's no need for thanks. He puts his lips to the bottle and fills his mouth, and instead swallowing it, he sprays it out onto the man's face. The man is caught off guard and the liquid enters his eyes, causing them to sting. Our hero's timid demeanor seems to have changed, and as he pours the remaining liquids in the bottle out, tells the man that it was hard acting like a pushover who knows nothing. He goes on to tell the man that he was aware that the liquid in the bottle contained goblin paralytic poison. He remarks that, although it didn't change the water's taste or color, it had a subtle fishy smell to it, and slightly stings the tongue. This explains why the liquid is stinging the man's eyes. It turns out that Sungmin wasn't a naive beginner, and he had just been putting on an act to trick the man. The man asks how, wasn't he just been summoned? Sungmin agrees that he was just summoned, and he is not in any class, but he has 13 years of experience. As the man leaps towards him, our hero is able to knee-kick the man in the crotch, and upon noticing the knife in the man's vest, snatches it and slits the man's throat. He then reminds the man of one of Area's rules: don't trust others easily. He collected 100,000 ER and a single dagger from this man, which isn't really much, but it is better than nothing. Our hero remembers earlier when he checked his body, he observed that not a single scar nor any muscles were present, so he concludes that he has returned to the starting point 13 years ago, when he was first summoned to Area. He thinks this is all due to that item. Lee Sungmin was 27 years old, and a C-rank mercenary. He lived a common lower-class life, making just enough money to live day by day in Area. Because he had neither talent nor background, he couldn't climb to the top, no matter how hard he tried. He looked for a way to change his irritating life, and was able to hold on to a slim chance when he luckily found an undiscovered dungeon. After painstaking efforts, he found one meager treasure chest, and after opening it with high hopes, there was only a single small rock within. He only carried it around with him, since he had no way to find out its use, but it ended up with him in his current situation. Just before he died, a system notification telling him that the Stone of Regression has been activated. Returning to the starting line 13 years ago. After taking everything into account, the stone seems to be something that returns the holder to the past, a stone of regression. He quickly opened his status to see if anything has changed, but when he checks, his stats are the same as the ones he had when he was first summoned 13 years ago. He first thinks that the regression was worthless, but he then realizes that he retained 13 years worth of memories. It's not completely vivid, but he still remembers big events, and he can now do certain things because he is not in class, as he stands before the Healthy Bone Realignment Office. There are all kinds of other worldly beings summoned to Area. There are mages who use magic and martial artists who use martial arts. And among them, the most common are no class. To put it simply, it's a blank slate. They can learn anything and even receive a special growth bonus. Though it sounds amazing at first glance, they're actually the lowest ranking individuals in the ecosystem of Area. Since they have no abilities, they all die in the wild environment of Area before they even get to do anything. Sungmin was also of no class and lived as a C-rank mercenary, while suffering all sorts of hardships and humiliation for 13 years. But in the end, he died. He lived a shabby life with no accomplishments, so he promises himself that he will become stronger by using whatever it takes. Within the Healthy Bone Realignment Office, he tells an old man that he wants to receive a skeleton remodeling procedure. Through the procedure, he has acquired a low-rank martial skeleton and a true heaven cultivation technique. He obtained 2 of the 3 chances that could improve his pathetic state that he couldn't obtain in Xenivus 13 years ago. The martial skeleton allows him to easily learn martial arts. The only way to receive this procedure is to be no class and to have no skills learned. The man doing the procedure offers to do the procedure on Sungmin for free in return for free advertising. In his past life, the doctor who did the procedure died from an accident shortly after, so there were very few people who obtained the opportunity. Now that he has the martial skeleton along with the no-class growth bonus, he can get stronger even faster. The True Heaven Cultivation Technique is a technique that allows one to accumulate internal energy. It is the basics of an energy cultivation technique. There are various categories of cultivation techniques that are categorized by their stability or internal energy enhancement speed. The one that he had learned in his past life was an ordinary second-rate cultivation technique. But there was a first-rate cultivation technique hidden in a small old library in Xenivus. The library owner was unaware of its worth, so he was able to buy it dirt cheap. He obtained 2 of the 3 chances within 1 day of being summoned. Now the remaining 3rd chance, the winning prize of the Colosseum that will open in a year. Its standards aren't very high because only no class can participate. It is more than possible that he stays in Xenivus to raise his skills during that year. What he needs right now is sufficient funds for lodging, so he needs to earn at least 30,000 ER per day. So to earn money while honing his skills, he needs to hunt monsters. Sungmin approaches a vendor selling equipment and notices a chest vest that he takes an interest in. The man selling it tells him that it could probably fit him since the adventurer who used it used to be around his size. He attempts to buy the chest vest armor, a spear, and 2 daggers. The seller with a skeptical expression asks our hero if he even has money to buy all of the items, and Sungmin tells the man he has 60,000 ER on him. The man laughs out loud, telling him to screw off since he needs at least $300,000 ER to buy all the items. Not deterred, he asks the man if he can put it on credit, but the man refuses. Sungmin then offers to sell his clothes, and asks the man how much he is willing to give him for them. Our hero tries his best to convince the man, but his efforts are useless. The man laughs at him for suddenly coming at him with rundown eyes, after making him try to pity him with an innocent expression earlier. After calling him a shameless brat, the man tells Sungmin to take the items on credit, and he doesn't need his filthy clothes. He tells our hero that he likes his worn and torn attitude, struggling desperately even though he is just a brat. He tells Sungmin that he thinks he will become one of his regulars. So he tells him to make sure to pay the $240,000 ER credit as soon as he gets the money. Not knowing if he was insulted or complimented, Sungmin simply thanks the man. Later in the middle of a forest, he stands wearing his new equipment. One's survival rate greatly depends on whether one has armor or not, even if it is just light armor. It was a good choice to buy armor, even though he had to push himself. He had never received a favor like the one from the man selling the armor before. Things like that weren't really common in area. He wonders if the man was thinking about stabbing him in the back. After getting close to him, he had to remain wary. On the hunting grounds, it reminds him of when he first came there 13 years ago. Remembering back then, he was the epitome of pathetic, nothing but a wooden club. Now, he is more ready and better equipped. He is able to hunt down monsters more easily. He uses his spear to impale a goblin with one shot. One shot, one kill is a movement that shoots a spear using the left hand as a barrel. Using it with an untrained hand, like his, causes burns. He decides to make some calluses on his hands first to prevent any further injury. He thinks that this might be a worthless regression, but it's a new start from here on out. Meanwhile, a mysterious person with long hair and a black robe meditates in a dark and eerie room, surrounded by red mist. Blue particles begin to appear and surround the person, who gets surprised. At night, our hero returns to the inn and is greeted by Jack, the innkeeper. He tells the innkeeper that he brought the accommodation fee for the night. Jack then inquires where he bought the dimensional pouch from, since an item like that would cost close to $1.5 million. Sungmin says that he got it cheaply from the merchant he deals with frequently. He hands over goblin teeth and body fluids to Jack, and for the amount given, the innkeeper will let him stay in the inn for 2 days, saying he wouldn't get a better deal even if he sold them to the Wizards Guild. He then compliments Sungmin, telling him that when he first came and suggested using monster byproducts to pay for accommodation. The innkeeper, though he was crazy for a kid with no class, and would likely end up dying soon. But it has been 2 weeks already, and every day he has hunted down monsters and brought back loot. Jack told him he was truly amazing, and wondered if this is what being talented feels like, saying that a normal no-class wouldn't be as good as him. But at these words, Sungmin got annoyed and walked away, while Jack continues blabbering. Sungmin is still upset about the innkeeper's comment about him being talented. He thinks that it's a word that doesn't suit him at all, since in his prior life he was so damn untalented. After suffering a lot, the best he could do in his previous life was the rank of a C-class mercenary. He pulled up his status window and looked at the list of martial arts that he learned in his prior life. Thanks to Arya's characteristics that allowed him to learn them just by remembering how they worked, he was able to get them back easily, but the techniques he had were all just second-rate martial arts. No matter how hard he learns these martial arts, he can't climb his way up. The only hope he has is the first-rate cultivation technique, the pure heavenly cultivation technique. But even cultivation techniques can only take him so far. He needed to get stronger martial arts as well. He sat on his bed in the lotus-style position and started to meditate and vowed to get stronger. The next day, a girl shouted his name and asked if he was going to the forest again. This girl was Lula, Jack the innkeeper's daughter. She questioned why does he always risk his life going hunting in the woods, doesn't he value his own life? Sungmin lets her know that because he is an otherworlder, if he wants to survive he needs to make money by killing monsters. She calls him a fool. There are other means to making money, and killing monsters is not the only job around. She then suggests working at the inn, since her dad seemed to like him a lot. But before she could finish, he cut her off, refusing the offer, saying that he doesn't know how to cook or clean. Lula can't seem to understand, and tries to persuade him, but he just stares at her silently for a moment. Then he turns to leave, and tells her that he will be back by dinner. In his past life, he lived while compromising with others, but he doesn't want to live like that again. This time, he will try to obtain the things he has envied, and he will do anything it takes to live a better life than his previous one. As the noon bell strikes, our hero thinks it's time for another new otherworlder to be summoned. As he looks towards the fountain, a portal starts to appear and a young kid with red eyes wearing a robe appears. Our hero wonders if this person knows martial arts, and looks to be about the same age as him. As Sungmin thinks this person must be confused, which is normal, two thugs approach and offers a bottle of water to drink, similar to how Sungmin was treated when he was first summoned. Thinking for a moment, he decides that this has nothing to do with him and turns away, but he bumps into someone. As he starts to apologize and look up, he sees a tall, bulky man with a scar on his face. He complains that his collarbone might be broken, and throws a punch at Sungmin's face, sending him to the ground. The people around start to gather due to the commotion, but is told to mind their own business since this was a private matter between them, and he was just teaching this kid a lesson for hurting him. The citizens then ignore them and begin to scatter. One of the thugs with the newcomer calls over asking what the bulky man was doing. Cursing his luck, our boy thought these guys are from the same gang. While the punches were clumsy, they were still martial arts that he used. This bastard before him was a third-rate martial artist. A martial artist can be distinguished by their level of martial arts. The ranking was in the order of third-rate martial artists are the lowest level, which can be reached in no time even with little mastery of martial arts. However, he had just regressed, so he hasn't been able to reach the third-rate level yet. This situation was still very dangerous for him. He can't win by himself. With how heartless the people in Xenovis are, there's no way anyone will help him. Instead, he shouts a warning at the newcomer, telling him that the bottle the thugs gave him has paralytic poison in it. The young man stares back at him blankly, while our hero thinks this kid might not be of much help to him, at the least since he looks like someone from Murim he might be able to distract them. Then the young man spilled the contents of the bottle onto the floor, while the thugs looks on with an angry expression. The OG thug comes to stands before our hero saying you're one stupid little kid, and threatens to sell him to the nobles, sends a powerful kick. The hero thinking, he can't let his life end like this, especially to a third-rate character like this, dodges out of the way with his lightning strike technique. After which strikes a blow using his elbow to the ribs, surprising his gang members. He proceeds to launch multiple palm strikes all over the chest of the thug, before taking a step back. But the thug just laughs saying our hero must have learned some martial arts, but it doesn't work against him. This was the limit of his current strength. When it comes to weight and muscle strength, a child like him can't really do much with martial arts. The other thugs then warn the others that if they make a fuss, the guards will come. The thug tries to finish things off with Sungmin as quickly as possible, and our hero is aware that he can't win the fight with his bare hands, so he resorts to using his spear. But before he can finish getting his spear from his pouch, he is stopped by the approach of the newcomer. With a smile he asks our main character to repeat what he said to him earlier, and gets really close and personal to our hero, shocking him. Momentarily distracted by this sudden intervention, he panics as he sees the fist of the thug fast approaching. But before our boy can react, the newcomer quickly moves his hand to block the fist and sends the thug flying with a red explosion, saying the words get lost. The young man remarks, how dare mere scum like them try to cut him off, how rude. In disbelief, Sungmin sees the body land among other beaten thugs. Our hero is shocked by the power displayed by the newcomer. A palm attack that is infused with internal energy isn't something that lower ranks can achieve, it's a power wielded by peak martial masters. The newcomer turns to our hero asking, he doesn't know where he is, so could he tell him about it? Our hero starts piecing things together from his memory. The kid is around his age, a peak martial master, and was summoned around the same time as him. Could this boy be the little heavenly demon, Ouija Hoiyan? The demonic cult is the representative of the unorthodox sects. They worship power itself. The strongest in the cult would become the head of the demonic cult and would be called the heavenly demon. His child is referred to as the young leader. An otherworlder who was the young leader, he's the little heavenly demon, Ouija Hoiyan. From an early age, he was able to use peak-level martial arts. He came to Area as an otherworlder and made a name for himself all over Area. He was about the same age as Sungmin when he was summoned, but there was a huge power gap between them. That same Ouija Hoiyan was in Sungmin's room, and they introduced themselves to each other. Hoiyan was only 13 years old, even 1 year younger than Sungmin. Our hero explains to Hoiyan about the world that they are in, saying that it is different from the world they were previously in. Hoiyan asks if there is no demonic cult in their world, to which Sungmin says yes, currently no demonic cults exist in this world, and Hoiyan starts giggling. Hoiyan then recalls the time they were being confronted by thugs earlier at the plaza, and asks Sungmin what he was shouting at him. Puzzled, our hero tells him that he was trying to stop him from drinking the water, because it had paralytic poison in it. Hoiyan starts laughing, calling our hero an arrogant bastard for speaking informally to him. Thinking he's so screwed, our boy immediately bowed down and apologizes, blabbering about not knowing that he was a young leader and spoke unintentionally. Thinking how the bloody hell did he get himself into this situation, and couldn't believe he was bowing to a 13-year-old kid of all things. Hoiyan after some thought said, he saw our hero using martial arts earlier, and started to point out that the martial arts he used was trash, the way he used them was also really lousy, and finally asked where in the world did he learn such lousy martial arts from? Trying to hold back his anger, our hero asked what the point of all this insult was. Hoiyan declares that he will teach him martial arts. This completely shocked Sungmin speechless. Hoiyan proudly stated that if he teaches him personally, even if he was lousy he will still improve. Our hero could not believe his ears. You're going to teach me martial arts? Nothing in life is free, he has conditions. At this, our hero was puzzled and scared at the same time and asked what it was. Hoiyan happily stated, become my friend. Our hero turned pale, and was utterly shocked and confused by this condition. In a flashback, we see a young Hoiyan telling his father, the demon cult leader heavenly demon Ouija hack, that he wants a friend. When questioned where he learned this from, he tells his father that he learned about friends in a book he read, and that he learned that having a friend can overcome all hardships. His father tells him that it's not wrong if he was an ordinary person. But he is anything but ordinary, and continues to tell him that he will be the one to succeed the throne and rule over the myriad demons one day, so there is no need for friends. If he has time to think about such nonsense, then he should put more effort into his training. Hoi-yeon walks off, saddened by his father's scolding. Hak then comments about his son's combative skills. During the training, his son was able to beat 50 people despite being a 10-year-old. Being the heir to the demon cult, he grew up with a lot of expectations. He began training when he was young, so he did not have the time to make friends. There was no logical reasoning behind this. We now return to Hoi-yeon, as he points his finger at our hero, and asking him to be his friend. Sungmin couldn't believe it and asks why did he want to be friends, and why with him all of a sudden. With a puzzled expression, Hoi-yeon remarked, "Doesn't everyone about the same age considered friends?" While shaking hands, Sungmin accepts Hoi-yeon's offer and becomes his friend. But he is a bit taken aback that he, a 27-year-old man on the inside, is friends with a 13-year-old. Hoi-yeon begins teaching Sungmin the violet mystic art. It is a technique from the unorthodox sect that has a unique characteristic, where the inner energy is shown in an amethyst color. Our hero wondered why he is being taught Violet Dawn mystic art, instead of the demon cult martial arts practiced by Hoi-yeon. But before answering, Hoi-yeon asks why he was using formal language, when they were friends and should be using informal language instead. Being caught off guard by the comment, after a pause he just agreed to speak informally, which brightened Hoi-yeon's mood. He starts explaining that the heavenly demonic mystic art that he practiced is the martial art that is practiced by the leader and the heir, so he can't teach him that, but he won't regret learning the Violet Dawn mystic art because it is quite a good technique. A month had passed since Hoi-yeon started teaching our boy the Violet Dawn mystic art. Sungmin's current level of martial arts is between 3rd and 2nd class, and with a bit more time, he will get even stronger. Compared to his previous life, this is a big development, but alas, he gets put down by Hoi-yeon's snarky comments about his skills, or the lack thereof. Just thinking about it makes him so angry and frustrated. Just as he was finishing with the goblins, he gets ambushed by a giant orc. Seeing the strike coming at the last moment, he dodges away from the club attack, but would have been in trouble if he wasn't being so careful. Checking the surrounding area to make sure no other monsters were around, he one-shots the orc using his spear skill, creating a clear hole in its chest. Wonders where his orc came from, since they do not live in this vicinity. Suddenly a man appears from behind. Remarking that our hero has quite the skill at his age. Upon asking who he was, he introduces himself as Woon Hyeryong, the Orchid Destruction Sword. Noticing his sword, Sungmin asks him that with what business he is approaching him. He tells him that he is there because of a problem related to the orc, which is already dead at his feet. Back at town, Hyeryong introduces him to Do Sangryang, a little monkey. While the little monkey questions about Sungmin being too young and unsure about his usefulness, Hyeryong reassures him that he saw him fight with his very own eyes, and that he possesses promising skills even at his young age and will be of help. The other members of their group introduce themselves to Sungmin. A ninja-like guy with a mask is Wang Pei the Black Rain Dagger, and the girl with green eye is Rainier, who is a mage from the School of Velas. The girl asks if he has any idea what job they will be doing, to which Hyeryong explains that recently within the area, an orc faction established a new orc village. They have had reports of them either raiding nearby villages or murdering novice adventurers. So the mercenary guild has put up a reward of 20 million ER for wiping out the orc village, and if the loot is added up, the total profit will be around 35 million ER. Dividing it by the 5 people in their group, each member will get around 7 million ER. Sungmin questions if he should proceed with working with them since, although an opportunity like that doesn't come by often, he is unsure if he should trust unfamiliar people. Upon recalling something about the Hyeryong, Sungmin agrees to work with them. Hyeryong is elated by his decision, but our hero then asks about the 2 sad-looking men sitting in the corner. Hyeryong tells him that they are just mules, nobodies with no class. They carry the bags they need for the expedition, and they are paid with the money left over. Hirion goes on to say that he doesn't need to concern himself with them, as we get a shot of his evil green face. Sungmin and the group are traveling the forest headed towards the orc village. The hero asks the little monkey how many orcs are there in the village. Sangryang responds that there are around 50, but they probably only have to fight around 30. He says that there is nothing too dangerous about the mission, since orcs are dull and stupid, so they just have to rush in and kill them. Easy peasy, money in the bank. So what's the plan? Hirion explains they will split into 2 teams, he and Sungmin in one team and the rest in the other. Their plan is that they will lure the orcs outside of the village, then divide and conquer. Renewer will help by spreading their scent with her magic, and since orcs are territorial creatures, once they smell humans they should come running. Then the rest of the team will ambush the orcs when they come rushing out, while Sungmin and Hirion will light the red flare and lure the remaining orcs out. That's how they will split the orcs into 2 groups and kill them all. Sungmin thinks that the plan is okay, but a little crude. He thinks that it would be better to lay a trap, but considering their numbers, it's not realistic. As they get closer to the orcs' territory, and they split up, wishing each other a good fight. They have been walking for almost half a day now, and Sungmin starts to take pity on the mule carrying their luggage, thinking about his past life as a mule. He asks the mule what his name is, while the mule is hesitant at first, but tells him it's Brass. He tells Brass frankly that he isn't confident if he will be able to protect him when the orcs start rushing out, so he gives him the choice to run away or continue following them, knowing full well the other guy will not help, since he isn't even interested in their conversation. But Brass says that he cannot run away, so Sungmin just reminds him to protect himself. Of course, mules can't just give up and run away, due to punishment given by the guilds is sometimes worse than death, since he knows it best. They finally reach their destination, and thankfully they avoid the patrolling guards along the way. The wooden fence in the middle of the trees is the area they are going to light the red flare, but before Hirion can set it off, Sungmin asks him to wait. He then pulls out a big jar from his bag, and Hirion comments that as expected, that bag around your waist was an interdimensional pocket, that must have been expensive, and questions where he get it from. To which our hero just says he got lucky. As greed is shown on Hirion's eye, he asks, what did you take out? Sungmin said water, to create mud that they will rub on their bodies to mask their scent. Hirion compliments him on the good idea, and says that he has a lot of experience unbefitting of his age, but our hero explains he learned it from his master. He then had everyone including Brass to roll over the mud to cover them. Afterwards, Hirion sets off the flare, which the orcs take notice. Hirion then suggests an idea, saying that they can send out the pack mule first and use him as a diversion, while they attack from behind and kill the orcs. Brass is shocked by this suicide plan, pointing out that he might die, but Woon brushes it off, saying that he won't die. He then threatens Brass, saying that if he won't come forward, he will kill him himself, but then he brushes it off again, saying that he's only joking. Our hero then steps up, and offers to go ahead first if that's not a problem. Hirion, after thinking for a moment, does not disagree with the suggestion. Around 13 orcs have been lured out, and Sungmin makes the first move to attack. As he takes them down one at a time, he asks himself, can he do it? No, he has to do it. He begins to question why he offered to come out first, since he isn't friends with Brass and there is no grand connection between them, but because they are both no class. That's all, in this land ruled by an incredibly clear and ugly rule, the strong are the law. He then remembers his training with Hoi Ian, and no matter how many times he tried to teach him it still didn't work. But he drilled this one thing into his head. Just remember this one way to hold a spear, and stab from a distance. He uses the soul-chasing spear technique in its third form, lightning splitting strike, to take out multiple orcs, while Hirion approached from the back and slashed at the orcs. However, one of the orc managed to reach Brass and was about to land a killing blow, but our hero was able to save him in the nick of time. Well, stay tuned to find out what happens in the next episode. Until next time.